Starting a new business can be difficult in any place, but a new study is out that says Texas is one of the best states for new businesses. We'll have more on that. And critical race theory has been a hot topic over the last several weeks. Tonight, we investigate how the subject is affecting education. Your KRHD News starts right now.
Connecting the Brazos Valley, this is KRHD News.
Good evening and thank you for joining us for KRHD News at 5. I'm Hallie Jones. Starting a business, big or small, can be difficult anywhere, and many businesses have a hard time staying in business once they get off the ground. But as KRHD News reporter Rachel Esbayat shows us, Texas is one of the top spots in the country for new businesses.
19-year-old Maddie Stott launched the second location of Texas Size Selfie, an open-air photo booth company right here in Aggieland about 3 months ago.
It's one of the best things that I've ever done, especially with school. It's allowed me to get involved with not just the community on campus, but off of campus as well.
Wallet Hub says it ranked each state using 3 key dimensions: business environment, access to resources, and business costs. Our Lone Star State ended up with the highest score.
Because if you think about it, we graduate every year a whole new crop of entrepreneurs that are looking to start a business or go to work for a business and learn the business.
Wallet Hub also compared all 50 states across 28 key indicators of startup success. This helped researchers determine which state creates the best foundation to launch and grow an enterprise.
Coming into a new town and starting a new business, I thought that I would be like an outsider, and that is absolutely not what I was greeted with. I was greeted with open arms and curiosity. Even the people who didn't understand what I was doing, they were willing to ask and to learn what I was doing and become supportive of that. And so I think that
we have a very business-friendly environment. All that sets the seeds for these new businesses to grow.
And while Wallet Hub names Texas #1 in the country, locals argue Aggieland should be #1 in the state.
With A&M and all the opportunities that we have available, I think this is one of the best places in the state to start a business.
In Brazos County, Rachel Esbayat, KRHD News.
According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, about a fifth of all startups typically don't survive past 1 year of operation, and nearly half of startup businesses don't make it to their 5th anniversary. Therefore, choosing a state with the right business conditions is a crucial step in making sure a business is successful. And according to a study done by Wallet Hub, Texas is the top state to start a business in America, followed by Georgia, California, and Florida. Texas is ranked 2nd in business environment for people looking to start a new business. The Lone Star State ranks 12th in overall access to resources and 32nd in business cost. Averaged together, these factors make Texas the #1 state for new businesses. And Governor Abbott giving Texas and Wallet Hub study a shout out on Twitter today. He writes, men and women willing to take a risk and stake their future on an idea have long written the story of Texas. Nobody is injured this evening after a single driver vehicle hit a DPS trooper's vehicle. DPS officials say a trooper was working another crash at Jones Creek when a concrete truck drove off the road. It is unclear if the driver of the vehicle will be issued a citation. The southbound lanes of Highway 6 have since been reopened. Houston Methodist Hospital is treating its very first patient with COVID-19 Lambda variant. Health experts say the mutation of viruses is common, but the only concern in the case is how much more transmissible each variant is. Those who are vaccinated for COVID-19 may not see symptoms as severe as others.
Patients coming into the hospital currently with COVID have been a lot sicker than what some of the ones have been, previously. And so that does concern me.
The CDC says the other variants that are cause for concern are the Beta, Alpha, and Gamma variants. We're just one day away from the opening of the Olympic Games, and Tokyo has hit another 6-month high in new COVID cases. The host city reported nearly 2,000 new cases today. Less than a quarter of Japan's population is fully vaccinated. Experts warn that infections in Tokyo will likely increase in the coming weeks. Spectators are banned from Olympic venues in Tokyo, but some venues outside the city will allow limited audiences. President Biden says it's likely that the CDC will recommend young kids wear masks at school. Just this month, the CDC said fully vaccinated students do not need to wear masks in classrooms. But the American Academy of Pediatrics disagreed, saying children over the age of 2 should still wear masks, even if they are vaccinated. Schools are not legally required to follow CDC guidance. House Bill 3979, passed by the Texas legislature, outlaws the teaching of so-called critical race theory. Tonight, KRHD News investigator Dennis Turner shows us how the bill complicated education at a time when many say we need more discussion of current events, not less.
If House Bill 3979 simply took critical race theory off the table for educators, it wouldn't have presented a big problem. The bill didn't stop there, though. Nope, it took aim at teachers and what they could and couldn't say about current events in the classroom.
I'll call this meeting of the Waco ISD Board of Trustees to order.
Listen to how the Waco Independent School District handled its debate when the bill's latest version dared impact the schools.
Okay, there has been a bill, House Bill 3979, that has drawn a lot of attention from parents and community members. That bill could restrict how teachers can discuss current events and limit our ability to require training for employees on racism.
How can you dismantle institutional racism if talking about race and racism is optional?
Many felt the bill tied teachers' hands a little too much, and that some would forego the discussions completely.
A teacher may not be compelled to discuss a particular current event. If they do, that they must include, quote, contending perspectives. We fear that some teachers might feel it is necessary to avoid discussions entirely. People can simply opt out of confronting these difficult topics. And while that might be more comfortable for people who look like me, it won't do anything to advance the work of dismantling racism that we've committed to as a district.
Experts agree. To understand the debate on race, you have to participate in the debate on race. Waco school leaders decided to put their opposition to the bill in writing in a resolution.
Dismantling institutional racism requires having candid, sometimes difficult conversations, and then it expresses opposition to House Bill 3979. It seems as if the legislature, in rushing to score political points, has failed to really think through what this looks like for a classroom teacher.
Not one school district in Central Texas teaches critical race theory, but that doesn't mean there's no discussion about race in the classroom. A few years ago, the Killeen Independent School District developed its own African American Studies program. It became the first in the region to offer the course, which other districts now offer.
We have some teachers who are decided not to have that discussion and some that are. What will be our response? Because our position is to dismantle racism.
There is certainly some incoherence within the language of the legislation itself.
You not talk about racism or address racism and talk about the civil rights movement. How do you talk about Dr. King?
I think that underscores the lack of clarity to this legislation.
A teacher could be teaching about the civil rights movement and have a discussion about the Klan, the Ku Klux Klan, and they have to give their students reason why they were justified.
I don't know that we want to ask our teachers essentially to play devil's advocate for some viewpoints that they may find morally abhorrent.
Are parents notified that that discussion is going to be happening so they can do follow-up with them?
But there are very few mandates that we would have to seek permission from parents on topics.
I'm just not ready to assign nefarious intent to their actions. I mean, I think it's poorly worded.
Sometimes in social media or in cable news to present everything as having two sides and being a heated debate. I'm not sure that everything really does have two sides that have equal.
So Waco trustees came out against the critical race bill, mostly for its burden on teachers. A fascinating move on a bill few had given any thought to.
Won't go anywhere.
Dennis Turner, 25 News.
Things are starting to look up when it comes to car sales. Prices on both used and new cars have gone up dramatically, partly because of a chip shortage. And now one company says that relief is coming. Taiwan Semiconductor makes up a large part of the chip production market. It says production for the units that go in cars will go up 60% this year compared to last year. Experts say it is hard to tell exactly when we will start seeing that affect car prices and supply.
One of the many factors, other than the chip shortage, is that rental fleets are down, so they're looking to boost their fleets back up again. And we have to consider that used cars are lasting longer. They're staying on the road longer and in people's possession longer.
The good news is prices have already started improving. Price increases are slowing down and the shortage of cars is less severe. Experts at Carfax say it looks like that trend will continue, but if you need a car now, you probably won't see a dramatic price drop.
There really isn't a best time or a bad time to buy. If you need a car, you want to make sure you're getting a good deal and paying the right price for it. And that's really, especially on a used car, that's really where your research comes in and making sure you're getting the most accurate price for a vehicle.
One car maker that continues to have problems with the chip shortage is Daimler. That owns Mercedes-Benz and Smart Cars. It started prioritizing its production of its more expensive models, but now it says it can't even keep up with making those cars, and they had to briefly stop production yesterday. BMW has also had to cut down on production. Ford says it may start shipping cars without chips to dealerships, and they can't be sold, and then dealers would need to install the chips whenever they become available. Still ahead in our lineup, the recent change that lets college athletes get paid for endorsements is opening up an entire new world. How NCAA players are now cashing in. Extreme heat and dry conditions continue to fuel wildfires across the West. Officials say this is a fire season that is unlike anything they have seen before. More than 70 large fires are burning across 13 states. The largest is the Bootleg Fire in southern Oregon that has now burned more than 394,000 acres. But there is some initial evidence that some of the forest treatment work that groups have been doing in that area may be working to make this fire less intense, and it could offer some lessons about how to make sure that forests are resilient in the future when it comes to climate change.
That work really looks like a combination of careful and thoughtful thinning of the smaller trees in those forests, opening it back up, leaving the largest, most fire-tolerant trees, and then critically reintroducing fire through prescribed fire or controlled burning, so that we're essentially mimicking that historical, cultural, and natural role of fire in these systems.
The Nature Conservancy has been doing the work that he just described for more than a decade in the Sycan Marsh Preserve, where the Bootleg Fire has spread. Now, he says this fire is intense because of the ongoing drought in that area, but they are hearing some promising news from firefighters.
This fire burned across untreated areas and then into the work that we and our partners on the Forest Service and the work in partnership with the Climate Tribes have been doing, is that fire actually reduced in severity. It went from a crown fire burning through the canopies of the trees and returned to something more like that surface fire or the ground fire.
Now, he says that ground fires are less severe and they're actually safer for firefighters. The Nature Conservancy is doing similar fire restoration efforts across the West. They plan to get better data on the Bootleg Fire when it's safe. Now, the federal government is giving communities more money from this year's COVID-19 relief bill. The U.S. Secretary of Commerce announced today $3 billion in economic development grants will be available. These grants are targeted at job training programs, developing new industries, and supporting local infrastructure. Recipients will be picked based on the anticipated return on investment to taxpayers. The number of starter homes on the market is at a 50-year low. This is according to loan company Freddie Mac. They define starter homes as a single-family space up to 1,400 square feet. In the late 1970s, an average of 418,000 of these homes were built each year. In 2020, that number was 65,000. Now, data from the National Association of Home Builders shows part of it may be that single-family homes are getting significantly bigger. Many are no longer considered an affordable entry-level house.
First Alert meteorologist Caleb Chevalier has the weather.
Thank you, Hallie. It's going to be another mild one tonight. We've got those lows dipping to around 76 degrees, which really isn't dipping down all that much at all. Maybe a little bit cooler in Centerville at 70 and Cameron at 72 degrees. But yes, it's going to be a mostly clear and warm one for tonight. Tomorrow, still hot, and we're only going to be getting hotter over the next few days. 93 for Bryan College Station, 91 in Rockdale and Madisonville, and Brenham, you should be at 93 degrees tomorrow. So we had a little bit of rain in the area, not a whole lot, and we're really not going to be getting very much in the way of rain tomorrow. The winds, it's been a little breezy. We'll still have those winds tomorrow out of the south and southeast, out at about, we'll call it 10 miles per hour, maybe 11 or 12 miles per hour. Here and there. Southwest, rather, those winds, they're going to continue to be out of the southwest and south at about 8 to 10 miles per hour for Saturday, so maybe not as breezy as it has been the past couple days. But as we head into tomorrow, again, what you'll notice is very little in the way of shower activity. There could be a couple showers here and there, and that's really going to be about it. And certainly those rain chances are going to be going down to pretty much zero over the next few days. Saturday, this really lets you know that we're getting into that high pressure pattern. Future track is completely blank, very little in the way of cloud cover. Certainly the rain is going to be gone, and that's going to allow things to really heat up. And once they begin to do so, we're just going to stay in a quite hot pattern for some time, which is reflected on that 10-day forecast. We've got 93 for Friday, but 95 on Saturday. That goes up to 96 on Sunday. And yes, there are warmer temperatures where that came from. Plenty dry, partly cloudy through the foreseeable future, with afternoons feeling close to 100, if not greater.
Attempts to steal personal or company information through emails, phone calls, and text messages are nothing new, but attackers are getting more sophisticated in combining these methods to make them seem more legit.
Think about the scenario of a two-factor message attempt sent to your mobile phone. Then you receive a phishing call or a vishing call on your phone, and then they ask you, we just sent you a code. Can you please let us know what that is so that we can move forward with this conversation?
Marcus Strowski with Checkpoint Security says you want to be aware for these multi-factor scam scenarios. Checkpoint documented an increase specifically in what are called vishing attempts late last year. The FBI warned of it again this year, especially with remote work. And as for who criminals are targeting, there are high-value victims, but it's typically based on the information available.
The organizations and the scammers who are trying to pull this off will actually go through your social media profiles and find information, create fake social media accounts to make you feel like that maybe perhaps you're a recruiter or someone who works for a company that's associated with you to make it more likely. As well as a lot of these organizations actually will post information for help on the dark web and use the dark web as a way to actually recruit people to actually do these campaigns, perhaps in the same language as where the attack is going to take place.
So it is really about how much information that you have publicly on social media accounts, as well as the information that is available through past security breaches and being sold on the dark web. And that's why changing your password is so important. Now, as far as cell phone companies, they do offer spam control features, but those aren't 100%, and you could still end up seeing fake caller IDs that say things like IRS or Social Security.
Because what ends up happening is that the attackers or these organizations who are looking to gain this information are able to leverage, voice over IP networks where phone numbers are constantly changing, and they can avoid that list to be able to still get calls to come through.
If you do fall for any sort of scam, and if you're working from home, it is best to contact your IT help desk so they can change company credentials. And if it's a personal multi-factor authentication scam, it is best to use that one-time code as soon as possible to log into the account that it's associated with and freeze it. Also, contact the institution or bank it's associated with and let them know what happened.
I'm Chris Conti here in New Orleans, home of Mardi Gras Creole and this year's Scripps Spelling Bee national champion.
What do you hope other kids maybe take away from this whole thing?
That they can do it and that it's possible to be done, and that they probably need to study a lot to win.
Coming up tomorrow, we go one-on-one with her on the court and talk about her plans for the future and what life has been like since winning the national title.
Here are some of the stories we're working on for Krhd News at 6. Due to staff shortages, passports are taking up to 18 weeks to be processed and delivered. But how is that affecting international students at Texas A&M University? Plus, we have another in-depth look at critical race theory in the state of Texas, and we hear from a college professor who actually teaches the subject. These stories and more coming up at the top of the hour. World News Tonight is just ahead, and we're back in 30 minutes for Krhd News at 6. Until then, have a good evening.